All right. Hello, Avian Science. So, some of you have found the lizard. I dropped a hint in the chat. I'm sure that was so helpful to tell you that it was on a rock. For those of you who haven't found it yet, hang on. It's right there. Almost in the center this time. Okay, so there will be new assignments put up, a new review quiz and a short answer. They'll be posted probably Saturday, but because next week is spring break, they won't be due till the following week on Friday, March 24th. So you've got plenty of time to work on these. Also, the project topic and format requests are also due on Friday, March 24th. So make sure you get those in. And yes, next week.
Is spring break 1 week or 2 weeks? Like, do we have class on the 21st? Okay.
Yes, next class is the 21st. Yep. All right, so last time we were talking about birds. We were talking about life in the wild. And so now we're going to take some of the things we talked about that wild birds deal with, and we're going to talk about them with regards to pet birds. So we're going to start, we finished with boredom in wild birds, and we're going to start with boredom in pet birds. The smarter and the more social a bird species is, the more behavior problems you're likely to have because the bird gets lonely and it gets bored. So we have to give them both social enrichment, that's interactions with other birds, with you, with your dog, you know, just some kinds of social interactions. And they also have to have mental stimulation. So these have to be safe activities that they can do, that they don't need constant supervision, and they have to be entertaining. So one of the favorite things birds like to do is tear things up. Got a box? I do. This would make a good bird toy. Now you'd probably want to, fold the top down, maybe cut a small hole in the side that's just a little too small for the bird to squeeze through. Maybe put some stuff inside of it, crumbled up paper. Good way to get rid of those English papers that you wrote and you weren't happy with. Just something for them to destroy. You can also use paper bags. You can use the roll on the inside of the paper towel roll or toilet paper roll. Regardless, you have to provide them with a lot of toys, and you need to change the toys up regularly. Just like with dogs and cats, if they play with the same thing every day, they get bored with it. It's much more exciting when it's something new. So you can rotate your toys. Take down the old ones that the bird isn't playing with as much. Put up some others. The bird plays with it, enjoys it, and then gets bored with it. And then you can put the newer toy back and bring out the old toy again. Depending on the size of the bird, you can try and provide a very large cage. It's easy to do with finches. It's easy to do with canaries. You can buy it. Well, okay, it's not cheap to do, but it's easy to do. You can spend $1,000, buy a cage that's big enough for you to walk into. And, that works for those birds. Other species really need time outside of the cage. They should not just be stuck in their cage at all times. So you can see here's a nice little climbing structure for this lovebird here. That's a good size. It looks like it's probably a good 5 foot tall. You can see he's got some green beans to eat. And then this is a real complex playground for this African gray, but that's good. That's good to have that kind of diversity and all of those kinds of things for it to interact with. And that looks like somebody probably built it themselves. You can also enrich the bird's life by taking them outside. Never take a bird outside if it's not in a cage or on a harness. So you can see this cockatoo has a nice little, it looks like it's basically a cat harness. That will keep it from being able to fly off. Birds that fly off, you may never see them again. They can also be put in an outdoor cage during good weather. Don't you have to remove the tape and labels from a box? That's generally a very good idea. Thank you for bringing that up, Daniel. Yeah, it's a good idea to remove tape and labels from a box before you give it to any pet as enrichment. If you do have an outdoor aviary, a cage that's outside for your bird to go out and spend the day, it needs to be in a location where the bird will have shelter from the weather. Birds can get sunburned, especially macaws that have bare skin on the face. They can also get, irritated by the wind. They need a space to get away from that. If it starts raining, they need a space to get away from the rain. So there needs to be some shelter available. This cockatoo, look at how excited he is. That's an excited bird. If you train your bird on a harness, you can, walk it around the backyard, or you can walk it around the neighborhood, or you can go for a bike ride. Either put the bird on the handlebars, have the leash wrapped around the handlebars. Some birds have even been trained to fly alongside. You've got a harness, so you've got control over the bird, and it just flies along while you're biking. That takes a little bit of training, though. Birds can be trained, and in my opinion, should be trained. I think all dogs should have basic obedience training. I think birds should too. This is good for their mental stimulus, and it's good to help with vet visits and behavior, especially if they develop behavior problems. Generally speaking, a lot of people who get pet birds, they're great when they're young, and then they hit puberty. And when they hit puberty, things are not as great, and they start misbehaving. So it's a good idea to get some training in before that happens. So these birds are both working with clickers. You can see this one is got some bird logo on it. Clicker training works with birds. We've mentioned this. Yeah, I think the one on the left is the Senegal. And yes, there's also a comment that birds are happier when they figure out how to communicate. That's definitely the case. So they can understand that the clicker is a sign that food is coming. Never punish a bird. Now, this can be tricky. You don't ever want to physically hit a bird. That's never a good idea for any animal or any person. Violence is not the answer to most things. You don't want to make them go back to their cage and feel like their cage is their punishment. What you want to do is distract the bird from their behavior. And it helps if you've trained them to do a trick. So you give them a command, and hopefully you can redirect their behavior to do the trick, and then it can be rewarded for good behavior. Or you can distract them by giving them something to tear up, and they can throw a temper tantrum tearing up a box or a paper bag or something. I say it's tricky because you don't want them to think that, oh, when I misbehave, I get a new toy. So you do have to be careful with distracting them. If you've taken dog training, you probably have better ideas about how to do that than I do. So basic behaviors. The first thing to train a bird with is step up. This is where the bird, in this case, again, this is probably a Senegal here, has been trained to step onto a perch. You can also train them to step onto your hand. This is relatively easy to train birds. Birds are pretty easy to train. And I'm going to grab Sassy here. And I'm going to stop the share for a second. Okay, so here's Sassy. And the way you train a bird to start stepping up is you put your hand underneath, up against their belly, and you push up. Birds are not going to like that. They're not going to like that pressure on their belly, and they're likely to step onto your hand or onto a perch, either one. You give them the command, step up, they get up, you click, you give them food, and repeat frequently. Repetition is always important in training. You should also train your bird to go to bed. You can see this bird's even learned how to tuck himself in. For safety reasons, birds should sleep in a cage. They're small, they're fragile. They can get stepped on by people. They can fall into toilets in the middle of the night. And they often feel more secure in their cage. Just like crate trained dogs, if they get spooked, they often go straight to their crate. It's their safety spot. You want the cage to be that for your bird. Keeping the bird in a cage at night also allows you to regulate their day-night cycle. So you determine when they wake up and when they go to bed. If you cover the cage at night, preferably with something nice and dark, this can help reduce breeding season behavior problems. When the days start getting longer, birds start getting in the mood for breeding season. And in the wild, we hear them singing, we see them gathering nesting material, but in captivity, we often see bad behaviors. Their hormones start raging, and they start acting like teenagers. By having control over how much sunlight the bird is exposed to, if you keep their day length, the amount of time they're exposed to sunlight, the same length of time year round, they won't ever get stimulated to go into breeding. And then you don't tend to get those seasonal problems. It can reduce a lot of these bad behaviors. Ideally, you reward the bird for going to its cage at night. One of the best things to do is find its favorite food. And when it's bedtime, they get their favorite food for a bedtime snack, but they get it in the cage. So they go in the cage to get their favorite snack, and then, you just shut them in for the night. Say goodnight, cover it up, let them scream for a little bit. They're like toddlers. They're gonna fuss. It's also valuable to train your bird to come on command. You can do this. You want to do it inside. It's very, very helpful if a bird knows that command and it gets outside. It will give you an increased chance of getting the bird to come back. It's not a guarantee. You start with short distances and use food rewards. Birds are like other animals, like toddlers, like dogs. If they see something really exciting and run off after it, they may not come back when they're called. So it increases your odds of getting a loose bird back, but it doesn't guarantee it. We've talked about birds needing grooming, specifically nails. So, and of course, some birds need beak trims and some people trim flight feathers. Again, you guys have gotten to know a lot about how to interact with dogs, and some of the things work with birds. Training them, giving them food rewards for letting you trim their nails really helps. If you've got a bird who's difficult, you can trim one nail, give them a food reward, let them go about their day. Tomorrow, trim another nail, give them a food reward, let them go about their day. Until you work up to being able to do all the nails in one setting. I just love this guy. He looks so cute on his back. He's just like, yeah, no big deal. You're just trimming my nails. Going into a crate is important, especially for birds that are, oh, I see chat comments. Yes. Especially for taking a bird to the vet. So training a bird to be comfortable in a travel crate is incredibly valuable. Now you can see this is, a small dog crate here. Yeah, it won't hold a cockatoo for long. Parrots can be incredibly destructive. If they get hold of an edge, they can tear their way out of a crate. And you can see these holes in the end of this crate, they're just holes cut in the plastic. Those holes are big enough for the bird to get its beak through and just start tearing it apart. This is a much better enclosure. There are holes in the side for ventilation, but they're not big enough for the beak to get through. The front and the back have a metal gate that closes. You want to be careful with how the closing mechanism works, because birds can, if they can get their beak through the little metal here and get hold of the latch, they will let themselves out. The other great thing about this box is it's got a built-in perch that gives the bird something to hold on to while he's in the car. The car's moving around, he's not just like sliding around the crate. Even if you end up using a dog or cat crate, you want to put a branch or a perch of some kind in it attached to the sides so that the bird has something that he can hold on to so he doesn't, like I was just saying, go sliding around. One of the ways that you can crate train your bird is by training them that the crate is their station. Now, I don't know if you guys have done this with dogs. You probably didn't. Station is a command that is used in a lot of exotic animal places like zoos and education centers. And what station is a specific location that the animal goes when it hears a specific signal. So it can be going in a crate. It can be going to a specific spot in the house. Yep, Jessica, go to the mat. Yes, this is just the same exact concept. I don't know what kind of mat you use. I've used bath mats with my dogs. Basic same concept here. With the station command, however, we train animals this in case of emergencies, especially if you have lots and lots of pets. This is why zoos use it a lot. This is why animal education centers use it a lot. There will be a loud noise, like a whistle, and that loud noise is only used when you want the animal to station. You can also use a verbal command, but you have a loud noise in case of that emergency. In an ideal situation, you make that sound and all animals go to their designated station. If you have to leave your house in an emergency, say your next door neighbor's house is on fire, you've got to get out, you've got to get your animals out. Having a command like station means you know exactly where they all are. You're not spending time looking for all of them. When we talk about zoos using it, do you guys know what an agouti is? It's a little animal about the size of a guinea pig, but more deer-like looking. Well, kind of, a little bit. They had an agouti escape. Now, when you've got an animal this big and it's a prey species, it's going to be a little bit nervous. It's going to be hiding. They gave the sound for station, and out comes this little agouti and goes right onto, I think he had a mat that he went onto. Came right out, right on his mat, and they were able to catch him again. There's an even better one. This was big cats. I think it was a tiger. Somebody got into the tiger enclosure. These incidents almost never end well for the people. And one of the keepers saw the tiger, and the tiger was literally stalking the person who got into the enclosure with it. And she signaled for that tiger to go to its station. And the station in this case was behind the enclosure. And that tiger went into the back area and then kind of looked around like, hey, wait, and turned around thinking, oh, well, now I can go outside again. But they shut the door so it couldn't get back out. So in that case, it saved somebody's life. So you can use that with your birds too. Maddie says there's a play. Was that the agouti story in the play, or was it just the general concept? Just the animal. Okay. Yep. Jessica sounds like she knows exactly what we're talking about here. Towels, bath mats, elevated dog cots. That's a good one. Yep. You're working on getting your dog to go to a business card. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Too bad we don't live in the same state, Jessica, or I'd have you come over and train my cats. And you guys know I love a good towel. So having birds who are comfortable in towels is very helpful for veterinary situations. A bird that is wrapped in a towel is much easier to deal with than a bird who's just being held. If your bird is comfortable being wrapped in a towel, that's going to reduce stress in emergencies or in veterinary visits. So you can see this is an African gray. This person has hold of the feet. Yep. And it's a little difficult to tell, but they've got a finger on the top of the head, a finger on this side, and their thumb's going to be on the other side of the bird's head. So they have control of the feet and the head. And then this towel is used to control the wings, because birds will throw their wings around when they're stressed. This is a macaw wrapped in a stripy blanket. Again, they've got his feet under this hand. This hand is just holding the bird down. It looks like he might be on a board to get an x-ray or something. I bet they're going to strap him down for that. And then, of course, this is a bald eagle. This is not my preferred bald eagle hold, but it certainly is one way to hold a bald eagle. You can see they've got heavyweight gloves on and they're holding the feet. The feet in the bald eagle are a weapon, and you want to control the weapon. Anytime you're restraining a bird, you want to control the weapon. So you want to know, are they going to bite or are they going to grab you with their claws? And then this is going to take me just a second. Stop it. New share. I love this little bird here. So it's a paper towel, but obviously he likes it. He's conquered it. He's jumping all over it. And it looks like he's trying to wrap himself up in the blanket. These are the kind of videos that make you want to have a bird. Okay. Now, we're going to talk now about bad bird behavior and how to deal with bad bird behavior. So I've already mentioned a bored bird is more likely to be a bad bird. Same thing with dogs. Bored dogs, not going to be very well behaved in the house. Mental and physical exercise reduce the risk of bad behavior, just like with dogs. So we're going to talk about a few specific situations and how to deal with them. So the first thing I want to talk about is going to be biting. In the wild, birds do not bite each other. Almost never. But it is hard for birds to communicate with us. And humans often do not recognize pissed off bird signals. We have some instinctive ability to look at a dog or a cat and go, that animal looks pissed off. You know, the ears flat back, kind of a hunched posture often, or hunched back if it's a scared cat. we've got a kind of an idea. They might show their teeth. Biting is often a result of overstimulation, stress, or fear. And just like in dogs, birds that are in pain are more likely to bite. So what are we looking at here? This is a pissed off bird. Beak is open. We can't see it in this still image, but the pupils in the eye will get bigger and smaller. They dilate in and out and in and out, almost like they're pulsing. The tail tends to be spread wide. The bird is often crouched horizontal to the ground. So instead of sitting upright like this, they're going to be standing, I can't really bend the bird very well, more horizontal, maybe even crouched down a little bit. If the bird has a crest, the crest will be flat on the head. It won't be standing up. If the bird is in this posture, yeah, give it some time. Timeouts are always good, and you don't have to put it back in its crate. You just give it some time. Give it a carrot, give it a stick, give it something to chew on that will help. If you know the bird has a history of biting, you can use treats under the situation, under the conditions where the bird has been known to bite in the past. Maybe it's been known to bite when you do nail trimmings. So use a food reward, give it something fun to distract it with so that hang on, where was I in the middle of the sentence? So that it's got something to bite other than you. Birds do control the dilation of their eyes, yes. Birds are also naturally chewy. They like to chew on things. Give them stuff to destroy, or they'll destroy your furniture. They might do your furniture anyway. So, all your efforts to try and prevent it, and your bird bites you anyway. There are a couple of things you can do in this situation. So first off, if the bird has bitten you and is not letting go, this is worst case scenario. You've got a bird, it's causing you pain. You have to keep your head and think about how to respond. If the bird is on your hand, it's easy. You cause an earthquake. You start shaking your hand. You don't want to hurt the bird. You just kind of want to startle them. And very often just startling them by having that sudden movement will cause them to let go. And then you put the bird somewhere, put the bird down so it's no longer on your hand. Option number two, if you can't get it off with the earthquake, this is not the best solution, but it works, and that is water. This works with most animals. Put the body part that the bird is attached to and the bird's head under water, under a running faucet, get in the shower, whatever you need to do. This works on huge range of species. It does not work on hermit crabs. I know that one from experience because I had hermit crabs when I was a child, and when they get underwater, they go back into their shell and they don't let go. So other than that, it tends to work.
And presumably it doesn't work on aquatic animals.
Yeah, no, I don't think it would. Although some aquatic animals, if you like put your hand in a fish tank, they will swim off. But regardless, the next thing you want to do is have a timeout. You want both yourself and the bird to have time to calm down, maybe have some distraction, and get those hormones, those adrenaline hormones levels down. Biting must be corrected, not punished. Use your brain to solve the problem. We are tool-using primates with big brains. We should be able to think our way out of the situation. If you feel yourself losing your temper, leave the room. You don't want to take it out on the bird. If it's a one-time thing, if this is like the first time you've been bitten, when you're having your timeout, think about what triggered the reaction. What were you doing? What was the bird doing right before it bit you? It could be something that happened in the room, maybe the way you were handling it. It could be something external, like, the trash truck came by. If you can figure out the cause, then you know that the next time that stimulus comes up, you need to be prepared to distract the bird and give it a reward for being distracted and calm in that situation, or avoid the situation completely. If it's a chronic problem, if the bird bites you frequently, we gotta enrich their life. There's too much stress, too much boredom, something going on. The bird needs more exercise or more mental stimulation. You can do all kinds of things. Toys are great, harness walking them, maybe turning YouTube on, or having music playing in the background. A lot of birds like music. It can be a source of stimulus there. You can try and find a new companion. Maybe it's lonely, but that can be really tricky, especially with a bird that already has some stress, some emotional issues going on. And then they're screaming. Birds are noisy. Okay. Okay, that's a Nan day. Nan days are one of the big screamers. I'm not going to make you listen to that for very long here. Oh, come on. So, like I was saying, all birds are going to make some level of noise. Most of the birds we keep in captivity live in large groups. If they live in heavily forested or jungle levels, they're going to be extra loud so they can stay in contact with their group. Some species will scream. A lot of the conures will scream, like the bird in the video. A lot of the cockatoos will scream. That's misspelled. Look at that. KT. You'd think they would know how to spell cockatoo. Cockatoos are big screamers as well. It's a natural behavior for them. You're not going to eliminate this. They are going to be loud. If noise is an issue, you live in an apartment complex, you want to pick some of the quieter birds. So there are some species of conure, like the green cheek conure, that is much quieter. Budgies tend to be quieter. Senegal parrots tend to be quieter. I didn't say quiet, I said quieter. So you want to be aware of how noisy a bird is before you get it. Why are birds screaming? Well, it can be that they want attention, they're bored, they're lonely, they're frustrated. Same kinds of things that cause other behavior problems in birds. Best way to deal with that? Mental stimulation, social stimulation, physical stimulation, exercise, things to do, companionship. You can train the bird on things you want them to do, tricks, stepping up, that sort of stuff. And if you know that they tend to scream in certain situations, just like with biting, if you know something that triggers the bird, you want to go through their obedience or trick routine when that stimulus is around. It can be very, very difficult to deal with screaming. You can accidentally reinforce screaming by trying to distract the bird from screaming. So, in best case scenarios, you use your brain, recognize when the bird tends to be noisiest. So one of the times a lot of birds are noisy is first thing in the morning. Well, you already keep the cage covered at night. So what do? When you uncover the cage in the morning, you give the bird breakfast. So instead of waking up and starting to scream, they wake up and they go, oh, food, and they're distracted. And hopefully by the time they finish their dinner, they're not in the mood for morning screaming. If your bird screams when you leave the room, do not go back in that room. You can talk to the bird from the other room so that they know you're there. Remember, a lot of times birds use this as a way to stay in contact with each other. So if you're talking to them, the bird feels connected to you and hopefully will not scream quite so loud. Okay. I talked about hormones already. We talked about how breeding behavior can be problematic. When you have a bird and the bird doesn't have bird companions, it will form long-term strong bonds with people. And sometimes they will pick one person and say, you're my mate. And you should be aware that if your bird decides you are its mate, there can be some behaviors that go along with this. Some of them are good, some of them not so good. So there will be efforts at mutual preening. The bird will sit on your shoulder and preen your hair. You want to be careful if your bird likes to do this, because if you've got earrings on, it will pull the earrings. This is sexual, not imprinting. They also, in the wild, birds feed each other, especially males feed females when they're trying to solicit breeding. And so they will regurgitate food for you. There's not really an easy way to stop this behavior. This is the bird saying, you are my person, you are my mate, and I know that for my mate, I would be doing these behaviors. You really, as far as I know, you're kind of stuck with it, which sucks, but if you're okay with it, you know, the bird occasionally throwing up on your shirt, that's fine. Imprinting usually takes place within a couple of hours of hatching. So that's baby bird thinking you're its parent rather than a sexual thing. So different behaviors. Okay. So I got an unpleasant picture coming up, and I got an unpleasant topic. So this will probably take 2 or 3 minutes to talk about. If you want to step out, I don't blame you. Come back in about 2 or 3 minutes and we'll probably be on our way to the next topic. So, if birds are not getting the stimulus they need in captivity, the companionship that they need, the mental stimulus that they need, they will self-harm. They will pull their own feathers out. This is a sign of mental illness in birds. Unfortunately, we can't take birds to a therapist and have them talk out their problems. Most birds that start to pluck their feathers out never stop. They never recover from this behavior. If a bird starts to feather pluck, there needs to be a serious reevaluation of their whole living situation. Something is wrong. Usually it's environmental. Occasionally it can be medical. So there are medical conditions which will cause this in birds. You should always consult an avian vet to determine, is it mental? Is it physical? Is it malnutrition? And to get advice on how to deal with it. Like I said, even if you improve the living situation, the bird may never stop this behavior, and it may need to wear a collar. So it's similar to the concept of Elizabethan collars that we put on dogs and cats, except they're shaped differently. And you can see this one, it's got all these frills here trying to make it look pretty, but it tends to go in a downward position rather than an upward position. So you're stopping the bird from bending around it and pulling the feathers out. Sometimes people dress their birds in sweaters, and that can help as well. Regardless, the bird needs time outside of their collar or sweater so that they get the chance to clean themselves, take a bath, groom, and then you put the collar back on. Okay, that's behavior issues. Any questions or comments about behavior issues in birds? All right. It's incredibly common in parrots. Incredibly common for parrots to have behavior problems. And so we're going to talk about parrots. Oh, Maddie put a link up.
As many of you know.
Ah, That's a good video there. Yeah. So if you want more advice on dealing with feather plucking in birds, I don't know this person, but this looks like a good place to start looking at options.
I just want to say that they are 100% like PG, like the entire channel is PG. They mostly focus on reptiles, but the main woman, Emily, she got her start in avian care. She has an environmental science degree. So everything she does say about birds is definitely accurate. And I mean, I've talked to people who like actually know them, and they're just like really good people. So
good.
I do really suggest checking them out, even if it's just for their bird videos.
Good. Thanks for that. All right. So parrots. We're talking cockatoos, Amazon parrots, African grays, macaws. Yeah, even some of the smaller birds. There are smaller parrots as well. This discussion is going to talk about the big ones. So we're talking about the physically large birds. Maddie, go ahead.
That brown one does not look like a parrot. What is that?
This one right here?
Yeah.
That's a Kia. That is a parrot.
Yeah, it just like doesn't have the parrot head that they usually have.
Yep. We're going to talk about them specifically because they are an oddball when it comes to parrots.
Okay.
Okay, so what we're going to start with is longevity. When we talk about cockatoos, the umbrella cockatoo, sulfur, Moluccan, these birds tend to live 50 to 70 years. The Amazon parrots, these are the ones that they're kind of chunky bodied. They're usually green with some color on the head. Up to 50 years. African grays, 40 to 60 years. And here we go, macaws, 80 to 100 years. So this is one of the first questions anybody who is getting one of these large parrots should be asking themselves. Where am I going to be in 80 to 100 years? What am I going to do with my macaw if I don't live another 100 years? Macaws are long-lived. All of these big birds are relatively long-lived. They often have to get passed along to another family member. Sometimes children, sometimes even the children will then have to pass the bird on to their children. So it is something very, very important to consider with getting these larger parrots. These birds are primarily plant eaters. They'll eat nuts and seeds and fruit, even leaves sometimes. They'll eat a lot of insects. All birds, except for the doves and the pigeons, eat insects at some times of their lives. Okay, maybe some of the seabirds don't, but then they're eating fish and stuff. Land-based birds are going to eat insects. The Kia here, these guys will eat meat as well. Other parrots will when they get the opportunity. The Kias actually go out and get meat. Parrots are in the group Cetacea forms, and These birds are primarily found in the tropics and in the southern hemisphere. So the equator, I don't know, goes, oh no, it's a, okay, gonna have to move it up a smidge. Ah. I know it looks like it's going on a line. I think this one's, there we go. So something like that. You want to add a red dot for the parrots that are loose in Florida? Yep. This is where they naturally occur. You're right.
And
There
you
are,
have to add one for London too.
yep. Yep. There are parrots in London. There are parrots in Chicago. There are parrots in Boston. There are parrots in Los Angeles and San Francisco. Yeah, there are parrots lots of places, but that's not their natural habitat. There was, at one point, a parrot living in North America, kind of this area here. It was called the Carolina parakeet. It is now extinct. We will, if we have enough time, talk about that at the end of this lecture. These birds tend to be brightly colored. They tend to be personable, interactive, to some degree capable of talking. So this is an Amazon parrot here. And of course, this is a macaw. Remember I talked about face sunburn? That's all this area right here that can get sunburned. I love macaws. I love their personalities. I will never have a macaw. In the wild, these birds all live in big flocks. We've talked about this. They travel a lot. They call loudly to each other. They nest in cavities in the wild. So this is an Amazon parrot. They provide a lot of parental care for their offspring. So when we talk about songbirds, you know, the finches, the canaries, the backyard birds that come to your bird feeder, you know, they might provide a couple of months of parental care, and that's kind of it. Parrots will often provide years of parental care for their offspring. So this is a 6-month-old macaw here. Wait, no, this is a 2-month-old macaw here. Believe it or not, he's almost full-sized at 2 months. He can't quite stand up yet. This is 1 week old, and this is 1 month old. So that's almost a 1 month time difference. And then this one's about a month away from looking like this. In the wild, pairs of macaws can raise 1 chick. They cannot raise 2. They generally do lay 2 eggs. And so if the first chick doesn't hatch or dies, they have a backup. But if the first chick has hatched and is doing well, when the second chick hatches, they will just neglect it. They'll never feed it. Because it literally takes everything they have to raise that 1 chick. This is useful for people who are trying to help increase the population of wild macaws, because they can go up to the nest and take that second egg and hatch it in captivity. And then hand rear the baby and send it out into the world. Fortunately, a lot of these birds have this crop. So you can see this guy's got a really full crop here. He's been fed probably within a few minutes, as has this one. Having a crop means that you can hand feed them easier. You don't have to do it quite as often. Parrots that are going to spend their life in captivity should be hand raised. It makes them more comfortable and less stressed in captivity. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about some of the unusual parrots. These are the next two species are both New Zealand parrots. This is the kakapo. The kakapo is a nocturnal parrot, which is weird right there. Most parrots are active during the day. They are ground nesters, which is weird. Most parrots nest in cavities. And they're flightless, which is very weird for a parrot. But look at how chunky that body is. There's no way that they can get that body off the ground. They're just cute, chunky little birds. New Zealand did not used to have mammalian predators for their birds. They just didn't have them. They didn't have anything like cats. They didn't have any weasels. They didn't have any dogs, no foxes, none of that. So being on the ground was not a hardship. It was something that these birds could exploit the niche. They could exploit living on the ground because there weren't mammals doing it. Nowadays, of course, people came along and they brought their ferrets and their cats, and of course they got loose and dogs got loose, and now all of a sudden these guys are extremely endangered, critically endangered. There are, last count that I saw, 154 cockapoo left. They are all on islands off the coast of, smaller islands off the coast of New Zealand that do not have cats and do not have rats. They are carefully monitored. So they all have a, they're all microchipped, just like dogs and cats get microchipped. They've got stations set up around the islands where the kakapo can come, get food. While they're getting their meal, they're standing on a scale. The scale will get their weight. They'll read the microchip. And that way the researchers who aren't even on the island can keep track of the weights of these birds. If a bird starts losing weight, they go out, they catch it, and they bring it back in for veterinary care. They are on the increase, but it is a very labor-intensive job trying to increase these populations. They put a lot of effort into this. As you can see, this is a wild bird, and he has no problems perching on this guy's hand. Maddie, go ahead.
Why don't they just like breed them in captivity and then release them?
Well, because they have to learn from their parents. They have to, it's just like most parrots have to learn a lot of skills from their parents in order to survive. The groups that are doing the macaws, they have an advantage that they have lots of wild macaws in the area where they're working. And so when they release the macaw chicks, there are wild macaws who will adopt the chicks. We don't see that with the kakapo.
Okay, so it's not like cranes where you can just like take them, breed them, and let them go?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately. And then these are the Kia. We've talked about the Kia before. This is the one that somebody thought they didn't really look like a parrot. They do look kind of like a hawk here. The Kia is a protected species. It has a very low survival rate of chicks, so it's very hard for them to raise offspring. They are not afraid of people, which is mostly bad because people don't like birds that are destructive. And these birds are going to tear up your car. If you live in the area, they'll tear up your siding. People don't like that, and they will deliberately harm the birds. They do not, neither of these species do well in captivity. These guys eat other birds. They will kill and eat lamb. They will kill and eat loose running house cats, and they attack full-grown sheep. They don't kill the sheep, but they literally will pull chunks of flesh off of the sheep for a meal. So they're really surprisingly carnivorous. They eat vegetable matter too. They're not true carnivores, but they do eat a lot of meat. You're not going to see either.
Are they hunting in flocks?
I do not know the answer to that. It wouldn't surprise me, but I don't know.
I was under the impression that all parrots hunted in flocks.
They live in flocks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, most parrots don't hunt.
Yes. Yes.
That's fair. I kind of took like I mixed living in flocks, and then you said hunting, and I mixed that together. I meant to say I thought all parrots live in flocks.
Yes. And these guys do definitely live in flocks. I just don't know if they hunt together. All right. Our cockatoos. We tend to think of them as largely white birds, but they also come in black. You don't tend to see these black colored cockatoos in captivity near as much, and you tend not to see them in the pet trade. If you do, they're going to be very, very expensive. So cockatoos are in my opinion, the most difficult species to keep in captivity well, to do a good job of keeping them in captivity. They're also very personable. Several of you have seen the Mr. Max videos. Mr. Max is all over. He's a YouTuber. Well, the bird is a YouTuber, and he's just very charismatic. The guy who does that really does a good job of those videos. But they act like a toddler, and they need the same amount of attention as a toddler. I don't think these should be pets, honestly. I know very, very few people who do this well, but they do love snuggling with their person. They do dance. Snowball or Snowbell on YouTube is a dancing cockatoo. They also are very dusty. So they produce a lot of dander, and dander is basically dead skin cells. So if you have sensitivity to birds, if you know, people who get these often develop allergies. They're very likely to produce allergic responses in people. Another reason they are not a great choice, and they can unlock most cages. A lot of people have to padlock their bird in their nighttime cage because otherwise the bird will get out. So it's the words that I really like that you shouldn't have as pets. Amazons. So these guys have a lot of different personality types. They're not all the same. Some of them are good talkers, some of them won't be. Some of them will be one-person birds. Some of them will be much more flexible. What they do tend to have in common is they are very demanding and assertive. So they are going to push for what they want, whether it's attention, whether it's food, anything. And they are prone to obesity. So they're sometimes called perch potatoes instead of couch potatoes. We haven't spent a lot of time talking about this, but the lifespan of these Amazons in captivity as pets tends to be 20 to 30 years. In the wild, it's more like 50 years. Anytime you see a species where their life expectancy in captivity is lower than their life expectancy in the wild, that means we are not doing something right. There's something wrong with the way we're keeping these. And a lot of it with these guys is weight management. And, you know, the best thing to do is educate people. Educate, educate. So they have an idea of what they're getting into before they get a pet parrot. My beloved macaws. Full-size macaws can live for 80 to 100 years. I mentioned that at the beginning. There are mini macaws, mini like miniature. They're not tiny, they're more conure sized. So, you know, body about like that. They still have the macaw face and the macaw body and a lot of the macaw personality. Those guys only live 40 years. These guys in the wild will often fly 60 miles in a day. 60. And just like all the other parrots, they're going to call long distances. These particular guys in captivity will constantly challenge their owner. They will try and become the dominant over their person. They want to be in charge. They are very stubborn, very headstrong, hard to train because they just don't, they're stubborn. If they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it. They're not good talkers. African grays, a lot of people consider this the smartest bird. I think the Kea and possibly the New Caledonian crow are smarter than African grays. But we talked specifically about Alex. That is probably the best studied individual bird, and that's a lot of reason behind why African grays have their reputation for intelligence. These are good talkers. They can understand what you're saying and understand what they are saying when they mimic you. Because of their intelligence, they need lots and lots of diverse stimulation, or they get bored. Boredom is not a good thing in pet parrots. The Carolina parakeet, a relatively small, slender parrot, used to be common. You can see the range here, all throughout the southeastern United States, up into Pennsylvania, southern New York, not quite Chicago, but not far from Chicago, Iowa, parts of Nebraska and Colorado, Oklahoma, parts of Texas. This was where they lived. These birds lived in flocks of between 200 and 300 individuals. There were millions of them in the United States when the Europeans first arrived. The last known Carolina parakeet died in 1918. They went extinct due to two things: overhunting and habitat destruction. They were considered a pest species, especially by farmers. So farmers would come out, they'd see a flock. I mean, you can imagine 300 birds, they can destroy your crops pretty darn quick. And they would shoot them. And they'd kill a couple. The other birds would come back to the dying birds on the ground. And the farmers would have a chance to hunt them too. So that's how they went extinct in a very short time period. All right. Whew. And I went, oh, looks like about a minute over. Any questions on anything we talked about today? I will say most parrots get rehomed multiple times in their lives. It's very rare for a person to keep a parrot for its entire life. All right, so I see Maddie has an unrelated question. If nobody else has anything to talk about, Maddie, do you want to ask it just of me, or do you want to ask it in front of everyone?
It doesn't matter. It's just about my new job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we have a couple of birds, and their cages aren't great. And I mean, obviously there's nothing I can do about it, but because you were talking about how like when they're bitey, it's like a stress thing. What's the best way to go about, like, if I have to like put my hand in there and like, because I mean there's nothing I can do about like actually fixing the problem.
Right.
Because like I mean it's not like they're aggressive. I mean they're little birds. I mean one of them is like, I mean they're like, one of them might be like 8 inches tall and the other might be 10 or 12. So like they're not big birds, but they're just like,
do you know what kind of birds they are? Budgies maybe?
They're definitely both like parrots, but I think one might be a parakeet. And I'm not entirely sure. I work tomorrow, so I can tell you on Tuesday. But yeah.
I would say use a perch to get them out of the cage.
Okay.
Rather than sticking your hand in the cage, stick a perch in the cage.
Okay.
And get them to step onto the perch.
I mean, we've got no shortage of spider wood and stuff, so.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like the enclosures like inside, they're fine, but they're just tiny.
Yeah.
So it's like if they just were to give them like a better size, and it's so loud in there.
No.
But I just, because I don't want to stress them out even more.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll definitely do that.
Yeah. That's the best thing you can do.
And is there any way that like, because like I'm a new person, is there any way I can help them familiarize themselves with me?
Treats.
Ooh, I'll make sure I ask before doing that.
Yeah, you want to ask before you do that, but if you can be the person who gives them meals when you come in, that will really help.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely ask about that. Yeah, and do you know if most parrots can have insects or no? Or does it really matter on the species?
I am 98% sure all parrots can have insects.
Okay, because the easiest thing I could do was go to the cricket bin and just grab a cricket. Like that would be the easiest thing to do.
I don't know if they haven't had crickets before, that would be a new and interesting experience. It might take them a while to realize that that's a food source.
That's fair.
If you've got mealworms, they usually take to mealworms pretty quick.
Oh yeah, we have mealworms.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. That helps a lot.
You're welcome. Good. Bye.